Okay, so a little more on data analysis, right? A little more on data analysis. See, generally, most of the serious students, what they would have done is that they would have finished their preparation. Okay, now finishing preparation is a very strong sort of an expression, right? Who finishes preparation, really, right? The preparation goes on all the way till the morning of the exam. But the point is, knowledge gaining is one important aspect. Once we finish gaining that particular knowledge, or once we are in the process of gaining that knowledge in the last few days, also keep in mind that you have taken some mock tests. Okay, that mock test would have given you some sort of data, which can basically give you some insight about like your own sort of exam taking style. Right now, in the previous videos that you must have seen, that I've mentioned that approximately even 100 lands you in a safe zone. Okay, if you analyze 2020, 2019, and 2018, okay, the cutoff has not been more than 100. It's been 98, 98, and 92.51. 2021, we are still speculating, right? But in these sort of tests that you have taken, or maybe the previous year, or in some of the mocks, you will understand what kind of a test taker are you. Are you a kind of a test taker who's like, I'm going to go with, I don't care what the paper is like, I'm going to go with all 100 attempts, okay, and then we'll see. Are you the kind of person who is like very wise and conscious about what are the kind of questions that you should avoid? Okay, more than the questions that you know there are questions that you should not be attempting, right? And that could be, your range might be close to 95. Okay, like you attempt a lot. Okay, so, or some of you might be like very sort of what do you call that? Less number of attempts, and ensuring that some questions are better left. For the sake of a better score. Depending upon what kind of a test taker you are, just keep something in mind. Again, data will help you. See, for a person who is going to go with like 100 attempts, and assuming that the exam pattern is along similar lines and the cutoff is around 100, at least keep in mind that in order for you to be somewhere in that 100 zone, okay, you have to have a little more than, a little less than 37 wrong. Okay, now 100 questions, I understand there are some who might have this particular strategy, that regardless of what the paper is like, I'm going to go with my gut instincts, and I'm going to go and have an answer for every single one of these questions, because I have a cushion of around 37. Okay, that is something that you could possibly do. It depends on whether you have tried this out in mocks. It depends on whether this works out for you. Okay, for a lot of people, this is not something that works out, because again, that 20-25 questions, we do tend to get, especially the difficult, right? So when I always say that 20-25% of the questions might be very easy for us to solve, okay, then you will have a good chunk of those 50 questions that are like based on your foundation, how strong your foundation is, how based on how much you have your basic standard books you've read, you will be able to apply that knowledge and still be able to get some sort of an answer given enough time. There will be some 20-25% questions that are very difficult to solve. So in that regard, when you spend a lot of time even trying to solve those difficult questions, it allows you with little less time for the easy and the moderate questions. So even if you would probably not end up with 37 questions incorrect, your number of incorrect questions will be more. Okay, it tends to happen. You just have to take a few mocks and then you will be able to understand. Okay, but this looks good for a lot of people, because 37 is a cushion that I would love to have. Okay, but whether it works out or not, you will be the best judge of it. Some of you might be somewhere in the 95 region. So let us say you're in the 95. Okay, or you might know you're from 90 to 95, or 80 to 85, 85 to 90 somewhere. I'm sure that you have an idea where exactly is your comfort zone for a particular kind of a paper. So if you're here, and again, if you're targeting the bare minimum of 100 plus, which I say that that should be the minimum sort of a criteria that you should have, minimum sort of a benchmark that you should have for yourself. If it is 95 sort of an attempts, okay, you have to have 62 correct. Right here, you should have 63 correct. 62 of those attempts should be right. Okay, and that will put you here. It doesn't mean that if you're here, you will probably be under much of a trouble, because last year's cutoff was 92.51. But here, I think at least a little bit of a cushion will be present. If you're somebody who's going to go with a 90 sort of attempts, if that feels like that's your comfort zone, remember you should still have 61 correct. Right, 61 is a little better than 2 to 1 sort of a ratio. Right, for every 2 questions right, okay, not more than 1 question wrong. Okay, so that is where your safe zone is. And similarly, for some of you who like to take your time, right, you try to take you look at those questions and you spend a little more time, and there are clear questions that you don't want to necessarily take a chance at. Okay, risk and reward, you're basically very judicious about this. Okay, 85 sort of an attempts, okay, you should have approximately 59 right. Okay, that is something that will keep you in a safe zone. That means like around 26. If you're 80, okay, that is 58. Now it is really up to you. right? It is really up to you on like what really works for you, what kind of paper it is. So keep those sort of things in mind when you go into that exam hall. At least know these numbers, right? Just keep track of these numbers: 163, 9562, 9061, 8559, 8058. Okay. The only thing is that when you are 80, right, the chances of you getting questions right, okay, is a little more because you have little less time going to be spent in some 15-20 questions. You'll probably take a look at it and then you'll decide that I don't think this is something that I will be able to solve. This is not something that I want to take much of a chance at. Okay, this looks like a difficult paper. I don't think this is a question that I want to do. If that allows you to spend a little more time on some other questions, the chances of you getting that question right could be a little higher. So this is an analysis that I think will help you a lot. Okay, so most of you would probably also know that I am the kind of a person who attempts less, right? I focus more on the strike rate, but it also allows me a little more time for me to really think it out, right? When I'm trying to solve a particular question, one thing that I realized, one thing that really works for me is that I have to like make a lot of notes in the question paper itself. Okay, for instance, I was trying to solve one of those questions recently, and then I saw there was something about CRPC. So I had to literally write down why not IPC, why not Indian Evidence Act. So basically, I am basically trying to create a conversation with myself. Okay, not like a spoken conversation, but within that exam hall. So that allows me to sort of broaden my thinking. Okay, within that exam hall, it allows me to bring in a little more extra context. Okay, and with that, I noticed that I will be able to, the chance of me getting a question right is slightly higher. Okay, and that is something that necessarily works for me. Okay, and if I have to do all of the questions, I notice that I don't think I have enough time to think about some of the questions, right? I don't have a very good strike rate. Sometimes the strike rate is like not so great, so you have to understand like what really works for you. So I hope this also really helps you when you go into that exam hall. Keep this thing in mind. Okay, if I feel like a lot of you are stressed, and I can understand that because it is exam season and you don't know, there's a little bit of uncertainty, like they call it luck, but it's more of uncertainty, right? It is a little bit of an uncertainty. Trust me, it is 50%. That is all. You focus on the easiest 50%. Okay, and keep these numbers in mind. Okay, that is all that you need. Okay, so look at the question: 22 questions. Okay, 29 questions, 33, 37. That's a lot. Okay, so I hope this also helps you gain some sort of a perspective, right? Then we prepare and go, but we don't necessarily think about these sort of consequences until we come back and then we start looking at the solutions, and then we're like, okay, where will I be and all of that. Just keep this in mind so that when you go into that exam hall, you have a little more than knowledge just about the 6 subjects plus current affairs, but you also have a little bit of a knowledge regarding right number of attempts and right number of rights and wrongs also. Okay, so I think this will also help you to a great extent.